he's just got athlete's tongue all the time, you know, insert open mouth, insert foot. I'll tell you, that boy, if he doesn't close his mouth, his tongue's gonna get sunburned. Hey, y'all, I'm Darren Moore. Yeah. Second weekend to the war. I guess a war in Iran now, and the second week didn't go so well. Trump, he's his own worst enemy. He just cannot help but say the wrong thing. I think he cares more about posturing, taking over the media than actually winning this war sometimes. However, he did say in the same speech in which he seemed to be backing off the idea of a regime change, he did talk about the fallen soldiers folks who said, make sure you finish the job. So let's hope that he does. I just cannot believe that he came out. I know in his mind, he was probably like, oh, I just want to dampen the fears about the rising oil prices, and said, you know, this war is won. It's already won. You know, it's basically over. I would have done the Loverboy song, It's Over, but I actually don't have the backing track for that one. Anyhow, you know, even Hegseth said that the three main objectives were to eliminate the Navy and destroy their capacity for nuclear weapons and destroy their ballistic weapons. Well, here's the problem with that. Is, you know, they may have knocked out the main Navy, but if they still have all these boats that can go around and attack the shipping containers and the oil boats going through the Strait of Hormuz, you haven't finished that objective, okay? Also, until we are able to open the Strait of Hormuz, this is certainly a long way from being won. And I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. You know, I think that what ends up happening is, you know, I know they're doing all this other work up here, knocking out the 31 different, because they're all autonomous regions now, the various 31 districts in Iran where each of the commanders are in charge and autonomous of their own leaders, they're of their own regions. Each of the leaders are now in charge of their own regions. But apparently they can launch missiles from 20 miles inland. And of course, if they got drone and mobile launchers even closer, they're going to have less of a reaction time to be able to hit the ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So first of all, the idea that Trump, you know, he taunted these oil companies saying, come on, have some guts, go. And then what ends up happening? Three of them, unprotected by American ships. They were not being chaperoned. They were not being escorted through the strait. They get hit. And so, you know, you've got to be able to say that's a miscalculation here. We've got to figure out what to do here. If that means heavy bombing in this corner, if that means ground troops, we got to do whatever it takes, because that is the key thing. If we walk away from this and we do not, and we cede the Strait of Hormuz to Iran, it's a loss. It's that simple. Secondarily, if we walk out of here and the regime is still intact, he keeps talking about the Venezuelan model. If he thinks that's what's going to end up happening here, where we're going to still have the same molocracy, if you're going to deal with someone like that, like we are in Venezuela, dealing with the vice president there, it's a loss, okay? If the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, which controls 50% of the profitable enterprises in Iran, still remains in charge of those once we're done, even if we've wiped out all of their military installations, if the IRGC still has controlling interests in all of those profitable enterprises in the state of Iran, that's a loss, okay? So anyhow, it's kind of, I know that he thinks that he's intentional, what is it that Kissinger called it? He called it intentionally vague comments. No, we need to be clear about what our objectives are. And this being all over the map, Hegseth, who I have really thought has been a class act all the way through this, he's a little too intense sometimes. He's kind of like me. Needs to dial it back just a little bit, but nonetheless, when Hegseth said, don't worry about it in the Strait of Hormuz in the press briefing, was it this morning? I'm like, yeah, no, we have to worry about it because we have a president here who thinks he's winning based on polls. And I'm afraid that if this becomes a game of attrition where Trump because at this point, Trump, what he seems like he's setting up here is that any point now he can declare victory and then pull out. And so if he doesn't have solid aims here, which I'd always said that he had four main aims, which is elimination of nuclear weapons, elimination of the ballistic and drone capacity, regime change, and then finally also the elimination of the terrorist cells, the proxies throughout the world, helping us dismantle those and stop funding those. Those are the four main things. And I've given him a little bit of leniency by saying, okay, well, he's not going to talk about how we're going to do the regime change because that really ought to be done by the people on the street. It ought to be done by the Iranian people. The optics will look a lot better. It'll be far more authentic, a lot more legitimate if it's the people that take over the government there. But in the meantime, we still need to take out this regime. And I thought it was really funny. One of the greatest things that has happened. I don't know where you guys are at on this, but ever since the Ayatollah has been blown up, the Iranian people have taken to the internet, and they have been so funny in mocking this regime. And you think about for the 36,000 people apparently now, we're up to 36,000 that were slaughtered in the January massacres by the Basij paramilitary civilian volunteer force in collusion with the Faraja, which is the police command that guards this regime. Ayatollah did not let those families bury those slain protesters, and yet here we are. What is it? Almost day 14 now, and they've not been able to have a funeral for the Ayatollah. And apparently, we got the son on the same hit too. He may be in a coma. He may have lost his leg. The truth of the matter is, we haven't seen him since then. So, can you, man? I just love the idea. It's such karma that he didn't let the protesters' families bury those protesters, and now he can't bury his. Yeah, and so if you don't know this too, Islamic rule does not allow embalming of corpses. So they've got him in a box. It's like he's in a cooler. But still, when we put our meat in a locker, we at least bleed him out first before we put him in the cold. So I just can't stop thinking about that line from Airplane. I don't know where I'll be then, but I sure won't smell that good either. And so. So who is in charge now? They apparently anointed what may have been already a dead man. We haven't seen him since. And frankly, Mojtaba is kind of the Fredo of the family anyway. So he's never had any clout. He's impotent, so he's been made fun of. Apparently, they've spent gazillions of dollars in fertility treatment up in London. They call the one son that they finally were able to have. The $1 billion baby is what the ruling class mockingly calls him. And Mojtaba has no executive experience. He has nothing on his resume. He was not even the head of one of the schools. He was like a teacher there. And the only recording they actually have of his voice is saying that there will be no class next week. And so there's not even enough of his audio, of his voice for AI to train on to make up, fake announcements of the guy. They can't even do that. And so the Iranian people are having a riot with this. I love some of the quotes that I've read. They say, Mojtaba, at least bury your father so you can have one executive job accomplishment on your resume. Others have said that, next week you'll have no class. Well, hey, last week you had no class. Hey, call me sometime when you have no class. I love what they say. If you love working remotely, the best job is the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic. Nobody asks you where you are, what you're doing, if you accomplished anything, or even if you're alive or dead. Can you imagine what it's like to be one of Iran's top leadership? You spent all of your life working your ass off, suppressing your fellow Iranians. You've been subverting the democratic dissent. You've been brutally slaughtering anyone who says anything bad about this regime. And now all this time, for decades, you've been trying to get so that maybe someday you'll become the supreme leader or the president. And then this day comes and they're like, no. Let Mojtaba have the job. Let Fredo, send him on the small boat and send him fishing. This is just so fun to watch the Iranian people rise up, and their humor is just so good. The best line probably was that they the reason they haven't buried Khomeini yet is because they're waiting for the son to die too, so that way they can save on the funeral costs, get a 2-for-1 deal there. But probably, announcing that Mojtaba as leader was actually very smart, because you can't kill someone who's already dead, right? We're in a situation where the appearance of the Mahdi, the 12th Imam, is more likely than the appearance of Mojtaba. Little 12th Imam joke there for you. Hopefully you guys got that one. But the best line, I think, is that they called the cardboard Ayatollah Schrodinger's Khomeini, because they've got him in a box, and until they show him, we don't know whether or not he's alive or dead. They got to take him out of the box, then we'll know. And so I think that is just absolutely hilarious. But nevertheless, let's make the point again here that this war is not won unless we get regime change. I know he doesn't want to talk about it, but if you leave the mullahs in, you've lost the peace. You've lost the war. If you're not able to open the Strait of Hormuz, if you're unable to remove the threat, the fact that Iran has been able to hold the strait hostage, you've lost the war. And so to understand Iran properly is to understand, it's a nation of 92 million people, but only 1 million of them are oppressing all the rest of them. I do not think we have to massacre all 1 million of these people. I don't think you possibly can, but you've got to eliminate the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, first of all. You've got to wipe those guys out. You've got to wipe out the Faraja, the professional police force. And, the brown shirts, the Basij, the ones that are the pipe wielders on the streets that are really suppressing the people. Apparently they were the ones that did most of the massacring in January. Those we can just turn over to the people, but we've got to arm them first. So we've got to understand, and I always make this point, and no one has been making the point that I made initially when I predicted how this war would go. No one has used the word Artesh that I have seen, aside from General Petraeus, who's actually doing some really great interviews out there. The idea that there is a professional, separate army, separate military called the Artesh from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. That they set up the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps because they did not feel the Artesh would protect the regime. And so we're probably not bombing the Artesh. We're probably opening lines of communication to them and trying to organize that military to do an overthrow of the IRGC when it becomes necessary. But we've got to wipe out all of the IRGC interests, and I'm sorry to say it, but that also means that a lot of their infrastructure is being wiped out. And we're not really being told what these 15,000 sorties or these 15,000 targets that we've attacked have been necessarily. It's very difficult to get a full accounting of what actually has been wiped out. They tell us what they want us to know. And so, but here's the one thing that makes me able to sleep at night, and that is the Mossad. The Mossad are such badasses. They're if you don't know who they are, they're our version of the CIA, except they are actually very aware of what their job is. They don't go rogue. The other advantage that Israel has is that, Israel's a small country, but some 30% of the people that live in Israel are actually Arabs. So there's not, and I know Iran are Persians, and Shia Persians hate Sunni Arabs and vice versa, but nonetheless, they look a lot alike. And so it's a lot easier to develop the covert operations. And so a couple of the articles that I've been reading make me feel very comfortable that Israel knows the stakes in this. Iran to Israel is far more of an existential threat, and they know that they cannot live with this regime. Because one of the things that you need to understand, and Kenneth Timmerman really opened my eyes to it in his book, Countdown to Crisis, which was written way back in 2005. And he talked about how we actually caught the Iranians trying to buy nuclear weapons from the former Soviet Union. And so the idea that we know that Iran worked with AQ Khan in Pakistan, and Pakistan, when you look at The green, when you see the bars here, the red means Sunni, and then the green is the percentage that is Shia. And of course, in Iran, it's almost all Shia. Well, Pakistan is primarily Shia. Maybe it's a little bit more Sunni than Shia. But Pakistan and, of course, Iraq and Syria are where the majority of the Shia are. But also, and of course, this is a bad stat because Indonesia has gazillions of people out there. The Shia are only 20% of the Islamic world. And so we always got to keep that in mind. But nonetheless, I'm pretty sure that Mossad is not going to be cowed before this war is over. And so, whereas they may be a little less interested in putting their boys at risk to get the Strait of Hormuz open, they're certainly going to be laser focused on ousting this regime. So, I saw Ali Larijani was walking in the streets of Tehran today. Didn't have a big crowd around him, but I was actually surprised that the Mossad wasn't aware of that and didn't put a bomb right in the middle of that crowd. I know that we are doing all that we can to not target civilians, but we should not be afraid to wipe them out when it's obvious that they have their supporters around them. Now, let me also make one other thing here too, is that if you are not aware, the Muslim street is not, the Arab street, the Persian street, the Muslim street is not what you think it is. These are not all fanatic supporters. These are people that are being blackmailed into being out there showing support. They have to shout the loudest or else you're gonna wipe out their little kid. They have an accounting of all these people. And this is why the Basij, the voluntary civilian force, has apparently some 200, maybe even more, 400,000. I saw one estimate said 400,000 people that are working with it. Again, they're volunteers, so very cost efficient there. But these are most likely people that are being run by fanatics, loyal to the regime, but are forcing people, pressing people into the support, emotionally blackmailing them, and just blackmailing them terribly. So keep in mind, again, I always make this point, but here's a new video, and I'm kind of rambling anyway. The Ayatollah made a huge mistake when he sent, for the last several decades, he sent his best and brightest to Western colleges for an education. And there's that old line that if you send your kids to Caesar for an education, do not be surprised if they return home as Romans. These kids that went to Western American universities came back more or less, they were Western. They loved it over here. I knew one of these guys in college. His name was Human, and he loved America. And I said, well, if you love America so much, why don't you just stay here? He goes, well, because if I don't go back, they're going to kill my sister and my family. I got to go back, Darren. And so the other thing that's very important to understand about Iran is that 70% of the people in Iran are under the age of 35. So they don't even remember the hostage taking. They don't remember the Beirut bombing. They don't remember Khobar Towers. They do remember that some 49 Americans were killed on October 7th. Okay, they know that they've been the state sponsor of Hezbollah, Hamas, the Quds Force, the Houthi rebels, Saudi Hezbollah. They know that they killed thousands of Americans in Iraq and Iraq, and when the Americans were stupidly in between tribal warfare there, thinking that we could somehow set up a new little America in the heart of Mesopotamia. And so the Iranian people are more or less Western. They are not their grandfather's Islamic revolution. And so there's a really great opportunity with Iran, and we just need to make sure that we pound away. And again, this is the idea. One thing that I got to go back to and say that I was really, really glad to hear that Trump is using the language of unconditional surrender rather than ceasefire. This is the problem with the last 100 years of American diplomacy. Our military, they're total badasses. It's not even close to a fair fight. They've won every battle we've sent them into. However, our political leadership has lost every war. They've lost the peace. And if you lose the peace for which your warriors bravely fought, you've lost the war. And so we need to make sure that we go. And this is the thing this was the thing that I was praising Trump for just a week ago. I said that he knows the difference between the way presidents understood war and peace from Washington to Teddy Roosevelt. And then after that, for the last 100 years, there has been this progressive three-school nonsense that believed in dynamic tension and balancing of powers, and that we were fighting for a ceasefire rather than for victory. And it's just it's like giving everybody who fought in the war a participation trophy. No, screw that. It's about us winning and them losing. It's about us imposing our peace. It's about us getting an unconditional surrender, peace on our terms, and a regime that's willing to implement those terms. That's what it's all about. Anything short of that is not victory. And so we got to finish the job here. And so let me just leave it at that. I'm very concerned about the things that happened in the last week. But if we're going to give up this battle of this country that's been at war with us for 47 years, the most demonic, the most evil country on the planet, the top sponsor of state terrorism on the globe, if we're gonna give it up because we're worried about our oil prices going up, even though they were far higher when Russia invaded Ukraine, then it just shows you that America, stiffen up. This is our battle. This is going to change the dynamics in the world forever, and we're playing for keeps here. So keep the faith, and Godspeed. God bless America.